Dr. Crystal of the Veloran Science Council had studied many species across the galaxy. She had documented the hunting patterns of the Draxian predators. She had analyzed the hive mind communication of the Zelith. She had even survived a research expedition to the death world of Karnak 7. But nothing in her 300 years of scientific work had prepared her for the puzzle that was humanity. The observation station floated in high orbit above Earth, hidden behind a small moon that humans had named Luna. Crystal stood at the viewing window, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence as she watched the blue and green planet spin slowly below. Her scales shifted from deep purple to curious orange as she reviewed the latest data on her tablet. "The numbers still make no sense," she said to her assistant, a young Veloran named Threx who had only recently earned his research certification. "How did they survive?" Threx moved to stand beside her, his own scales flickering with uncertainty. "Perhaps there is an error in our historical reconstructions, Dr. Crystal. The data suggests they should have gone extinct at least 12 times in their evolutionary history." "There is no error." Crystal tapped her tablet with one clawed finger. "I have checked the calculations myself, 47 times. The humans should not exist." She pulled up a holographic display that filled the observation room with floating images and charts. The display showed a timeline of human evolution, marked with red warning symbols at multiple points. "Look here," she said, pointing to a spot early in the timeline. "Their ancestors were small, weak creatures in a world filled with massive predators. They had no natural weapons, no thick hide, no venom, no speed to escape danger. By every measure we use to predict survival, they should have been eaten to extinction within a few generations." Threx studied the display with growing confusion, yet they survived. "They survived. And then here," Crystal moved her finger along the timeline, "ice ages, climate shifts that killed most life on their planet. Their bodies had no adaptation for extreme cold. They could not hibernate, they could not migrate fast enough. They should have frozen." "Yet they survived," Threx repeated, his voice now touched with wonder. "Multiple times and disease. They have suffered plagues that killed large portions of their population, wars that devastated their numbers, natural disasters, predators, starvation." Crystal's scales had shifted to deep blue, the color of intense scientific interest. "Every single time by our models they should have died out. Every single time they did not." "What is their secret?" Threx asked. This was the question that had brought Crystal to this observation station. The Galactic Council had noticed humanity 50 of their years ago, when human radio signals first reached Veloran listening posts. Since then, the Council had watched and studied, trying to understand this impossible species before making first contact. Crystal had been chosen to lead the final research phase. Her task was simple to state but proved difficult to complete. She needed to answer one question: what made humans survive? "I believe I have found the answer," she said slowly, "but I need to verify it. That is why we are here today." She moved to a control panel and activated a series of sensors pointed at the planet below. On the main screen, images began to appear. Humans going about their daily lives, captured by microdrones that floated invisibly through their cities. "Watch carefully," Crystal instructed. The first image showed a human city street. Thousands of humans moved past each other, most ignoring one another. But then the view focused on a small scene. A human child had fallen off a wheeled device they used for play. The child sat on the ground, fluid leaking from its eyes. "They are leaking," Threx observed. "Is this a medical emergency?" "They call it crying. It is an emotional response, but watch what happens next." On the screen, several adult humans immediately moved toward the crying child. One knelt beside the small human and made physical contact, placing its arms around the child. Another examined the wheeled device. A third pulled out a small communication device, possibly to summon additional help. These adults, Threx said, checking his own data tablet. They are not genetically related to the child. They are complete strangers. Correct. Then why do they help? There is no evolutionary benefit to helping an unrelated juvenile. It costs them time and energy. They gain nothing. Crystal's scales shifted to warm yellow. This was the key observation. This was what made humans different. Show them video sequence 7, she commanded the computer. The screen changed to show a different scene. A human dwelling was burning, flames and smoke pouring from the structure. A human adult stood outside, making distressed vocalizations. Other humans arrived in large vehicles, wearing protective gear. They rushed into the burning structure. The rescuers, Threx said, now checking data frantically. They are not related to anyone inside the structure. They do not know the residents personally. They are risking death for strangers. Yes. But why? Crystal switched to another video. This one showed humans at a medical facility. One human was connected to tubes and machines, clearly very ill. Around the bed stood several other humans, holding the sick one's hands, making soft sounds. The sick human has a terminal disease, Crystal explained. It will die soon. The others cannot help it recover. They cannot gain anything from this visit. The sick human is not wealthy and has no resources to share. Yet they come. Every day. They sit with the dying one for hours. Another video. Humans with four-legged creatures that data files identified as dogs. The humans were sharing their food with these animals. They were providing shelter. They were protecting creatures that, in evolutionary terms, should be competitors for resources. Another video. A human holding a small, furry creature. A cat, according to the database. The human was speaking to the cat in soft tones, even though the cat could not understand or respond with language. The human was smiling. They form these bonds with other species, Threx said slowly, not just their own kind. With anything, Crystal confirmed. I have documented humans forming emotional attachments to machines, to plants, to stuffed representations of animals, to digital constructs in their entertainment programs. I observed one human cry when a wheeled exploration machine on a neighboring planet stopped functioning. Threx was quiet for a long moment. His scales flickered through several colors as he processed this information. Pack bonding, he finally said. That is what you have discovered. That is what I call it, yes. But it is unlike any pack bonding behavior we have seen in other species. Most pack species bond with genetic relatives. They protect their own bloodline. They cooperate with those who share their genes. This is logical. This is how evolution works. But humans, Threx began. Humans bond with everything, Crystal finished. They do not need genetic connection. They do not need species similarity. They do not even need the other party to be alive. They form emotional attachments based on proximity, shared experience, and something they call love. She pulled up a new set of data, statistics, numbers, the cold facts that supported her observations. 73% of humans report they would risk their lives for a close friend who is not related to them by blood. 61% say they would do the same for a beloved pet. 42% have formed emotional attachments to fictional characters. 37% have reported grief at the malfunction of a machine they used regularly. This is, Threx struggled for words, this is impossible. It makes no evolutionary sense. And yet, Crystal said quietly, it is why they survived. She turned back to the viewing window, gazing down at Earth. When predators attacked, they did not run alone. They stood together, even those who were not family. When the ice came, they did not each seek their own shelter. They huddled together, sharing warmth and food with strangers. When plague struck, they cared for the sick even at risk to themselves. When disaster came, they rebuilt together. She paused, her scales now a mix of colors that Threx had never seen before. Awe perhaps, or fear. Their pack is not their family. Their pack is not their tribe. Their pack is not even limited to their species. In their minds, anything can become pack, and once something is pack, they will do anything to protect it. This is their evolutionary advantage, Threx whispered. This is how they survived. Yes, Crystal turned to face her assistant, and this is why the Council is afraid. Afraid of creatures who care for strangers, who bond with animals and machines. Think about it, Threx. Think about what it means when we make first contact. Think about what it means when humans discover they are not alone in the universe. Threx's scales went pale gray as understanding dawned. They will try to pack bond with us. With every species they meet, with the entire galaxy if we let them. Crystal's voice was soft but serious. And based on everything I have observed, once a human decides you are pack, there is almost nothing they will not do for you. They will fight for you, die for you, kill for you. She brought up one final image on the screen, a human history video showing their soldiers in combat. Humans throwing themselves on explosive devices to protect others. Humans carrying wounded companions through enemy fire. Humans staying behind to cover the retreat of strangers they had met only days before. The question the Council must answer, Crystal said, is whether we want to be included in humanity's pack. And if we do not want to be. Was silent for a long moment. Then we must hope they never find us. Because if humans see us as enemies instead of pack, if they decide we are a threat to the things they love, then all that loyalty, all that willingness to sacrifice, all that determination to protect, she paused, her scales now the deep red of warning, all of that will be turned against us. And they have already proven again and again that nothing stops them when they are protecting their pack. Threx stared at the planet below, so peaceful from this distance, so blue and green and quiet. What will you recommend to the Council? He asked. Began shutting down the observation equipment. Her report was already forming in her mind. I will recommend we make contact, soon, before they find us on their own. You want to be pack. I want to give us the best chance of survival. She moved toward the exit, her assistant following. And based on everything I have learned, the safest place in this universe is not far from humanity. The safest place is beside them, as their friends, as their pack. The observation room went dark behind them, leaving only the blue glow of Earth visible through the window. Below, 8 billion humans continued their lives, unaware they were being watched, unaware that their simple capacity to love strangers had caught the attention of the galaxy, unaware that they were about to change everything. The Galactic Council Chamber was the largest enclosed space in known civilization. Its domed ceiling stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed inside. Thousands of representatives from hundreds of species filled the tiered seating, their bodies as varied as the worlds they came from. Dr. Crystal stood on the central speaking platform, feeling very small. Her scales had gone pale with nervousness, but she forced them to shift toward professional gray. She had presented research before, but never to an audience like this, never with stakes so high. Honored representatives, she began, her voice amplified to fill the vast chamber. I come before you today with my final report on the species known as humanity. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Every species present had heard rumors about the strange creatures from the death world called Earth. Some had dismissed humans as primitive. Others had expressed curiosity. A few, Crystal knew, had already begun making plans for conquest or exploitation. She activated her holographic presentation, filling the air above her with images and data. Humans are, by all standard measurements, an unremarkable species. They possess no natural weapons. They cannot survive extreme temperatures without artificial aid. They are susceptible to thousands of diseases. They require constant food and water intake. They must sleep for approximately 1/3 of their existence. A Draxian representative made a sound of dismissal. The Draxians were apex predators, massive and powerful, and they had little respect for weak species. However, Crystal continued, humans possess one adaptation that makes them unique in our recorded history, an adaptation that has allowed them to not only survive on a death world, but to become its dominant species. She displayed images of humans with their pets, their children, their friends, humans holding hands, humans embracing, humans crying together and laughing together. Humans have evolved what I term unlimited pack bonding. Unlike any other species we have studied, humans can form genuine emotional attachments to virtually anything. Other humans, regardless of genetic relation, other species, machines, concepts, fictional entities. The only requirement for bond formation is exposure and positive association. The Zealth ambassador, a being of pure thought energy, flickered with interest. This is impossible. Pack bonding must have genetic basis. Evolution does not allow for wasted emotional resources. Respectfully, Ambassador, I have documented thousands of examples that prove otherwise. Crystal brought up video after video. Here, a human family that has adopted offspring from a different genetic lineage, treating them exactly as they would biological children. Here, humans who have formed lifelong bonds with companions they met only once during brief shared experiences. Here, humans who grieve for the deaths of individuals they never met personally, but felt connected to through shared cultural identity. Another voice rose from the assembly. This was High Commander Vrex of the Korathi Empire, a military power known for its brutal efficiency. This is weakness, not strength. Emotional attachments are liabilities. They can be exploited. Target what a human loves and the human will surrender. Crystal had expected this objection. May I show the Council historical footage from human conflicts? Permission was granted. The holographic display changed to show human wars. Crystal narrated as the images played. The Korathi strategy assumes that threatening loved ones will cause surrender. In some species, this is true. Observe what happens with humans. The footage showed a human city under attack, buildings burning, civilians screaming, and then the response. Humans who had been peaceful citizens moments before took up weapons. Humans who had no military training organized themselves into fighting units. Humans who should have fled instead stayed to protect strangers. When you threaten what a human loves, you do not cause surrender, you cause fury. The footage continued. Human soldiers fighting against impossible odds. Human medics running into danger to save wounded companions. Human pilots crashing their vehicles into enemy positions to protect retreating allies. Humans have a concept they call righteous anger. When something they have pack bonded with is threatened, their fear response is often overridden by a protective rage. They become more dangerous, not less. High Commander Vrex made a dismissive sound, but several other military representatives leaned forward with new interest. Crystal continued. Additionally, harming what a human loves does not break their spirit as it might with other species. Instead, it creates what they call a grudge. Humans have been documented pursuing revenge across decades, across generations. They teach their children to remember wrongs done to the family. They build memorials to those they have lost and swear oaths that the sacrifices will not be forgotten. She pulled up data from human history. The humans once suffered an attack on their territory by a rival faction. The attack killed several thousand individuals out of a population of hundreds of millions. Less than 1% of 1%. Most species would accept such losses and seek peace. The humans instead declared war and fought for years, spending trillions of their resource units, sacrificing thousands more lives, until the faction that had attacked them was completely destroyed. The chamber was silent now, could feel the attention of every representative focused on her. This brings me to my first conclusion about humanity. They are not weak because they love. They are dangerous because they love. Any species that threatens what humans have pack bonded with will face resistance far beyond what logic would predict. She paused to let this sink in before moving to her next point. My second conclusion relates to the long-term implications of human pack bonding. As I mentioned, humans can bond with anything, including us. A screen showed humans interacting with alien species from their entertainment media. Movies and television shows where humans befriended extraterrestrials. Books and stories about alliances between humanity and other worlds. Art depicting humans and aliens working together, fighting together, living together. Humans have been imagining contact with alien species for over a century. In their stories, the most common outcome is not war or conquest. It is friendship, alliance, pack bonding extended across species lines. The zealous ambassador flickered again. They expect to bond with us. They hope to. They dream of it. In their entertainment, meeting alien life is often portrayed as the moment when humanity finally feels less alone in the universe, less isolated. They want to include us in their pack. She could see confused reactions throughout the chamber. The concept was simply alien to most species present. They formed alliances for practical reasons. They traded for mutual benefit. They cooperated when necessary. But the idea of genuinely caring about another species the way they cared about their own was almost incomprehensible. Consider what this means, Crystal pressed on. If we approach humanity as potential friends, if we show them kindness and respect and allow bonds to form, we will not simply gain trading partners or military allies. We will be adopted. They will care about us the way they care about their own families. They will protect us, fight for us, die for us if necessary. She brought up images of humans with their beloved pets, the dogs and cats that humans treated as family members, the way humans grieved when these animals died, sometimes more deeply than they grieved for distant relatives of their own species. Humans have elevated other Earth species to pack status. They have created laws to protect these animals. They spend significant resources on their health and comfort. They share their homes and their food. Some humans have sacrificed their own safety to rescue animals in danger. The display shifted to show humans with alien creatures from their fiction, beloved characters from stories that had achieved what humans called cultural icon status, characters that humans collected images of, named their offspring after, wrote additional stories about. They have pack bonded with imaginary aliens. They already love species that do not exist. How much easier will it be for them to love us, who are real? High Commander Vrex stood, his massive form casting a shadow across the speaking platform. You speak of love and bonding, scientist, but you have not addressed the true question. What threat do these humans pose? A significant one, High Commander, but perhaps not in the way you expect. Crystal changed the display to show human technological development, the rapid advancement from primitive tools to space flight in a mere fraction of the time other species had taken, the weapons they had developed, the destruction they were capable of. Humans are aggressive, they are inventive, they adapt quickly. They have fought countless wars among themselves, which has driven their weapons development far beyond what a more peaceful species would achieve. They are approaching the technological level required for interstellar travel. Within a few generations, they will be capable of reaching other worlds. Then we should destroy them now, Vrex said, while they are still confined to their single planet. The chamber erupted in competing voices. Some agreed with the Korathi commander, others objected. The Zealot flickered with distress at the suggestion of genocide. Raised her voice above the noise. That would be the worst possible choice. Silence fell again, as representatives waited for her explanation. Humans are already aware of the possibility of hostile alien life. Their entertainment is filled with stories of invasions and conflicts with other species. If we attack them, if we destroy their cities and kill their people, We will confirm their darkest fears, and we will unite them as nothing else could. She showed footage of human responses to external threats, natural disasters that brought enemies together, attacks that made former rivals into allies, the way human factions that had been at war for generations could suddenly cooperate when faced with a common enemy. Humans fight among themselves constantly. Their nations compete. Their ideologies clash, but threaten them from outside and they will become one pack. 8 billion individuals with a shared enemy. 8 billion individuals who have just watched their loved ones die. 8 billion individuals seeking revenge. The display showed human space programs, rockets launching, space stations orbiting, plans for colonization of other planets in their system. Even if we destroyed Earth entirely, we could not be certain of killing all of them. They have already sent members of their species into space. They have plans for colonies on other worlds. If even a small group survived, they would carry the memory of what we did. They would teach their children. They would build again, and eventually they would come for us. Crystal's scales shifted to the deep red of warning. We would not be fighting a species. We would be fighting a grudge, a hatred passed down through generations, a pack whose defining bond was their shared loss and their shared enemy. She let the silence stretch before speaking her final conclusion. My recommendation to this council is therefore not based on weakness or sentimentality. It is based on cold strategic analysis. Humanity is going to join the galactic community. That is inevitable. They are too curious, too inventive, too determined to explore. The only question is whether they join as friends or enemies. The holographic display showed two possible futures, one of cooperation and alliance, another of endless war and destruction. If we welcome them, we gain the most loyal allies the galaxy has ever seen. A species that will fight for us, trade with us, share their remarkable creativity with us, and pack bond with us so deeply that our survival becomes as important to them as their own. If we reject them, if we threaten them, if we try to destroy them, we will create an enemy that will never stop, never forgive, never forget. Crystal turned off her display and stood alone on the platform, looking up at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. The choice is yours, honored council, but I urge you to choose friendship, not because it is kind, not because it is moral, but because it is wise, because a human friend is a treasure beyond measure, and a human enemy is a nightmare that will never end. She stepped down from the platform, her presentation complete. Behind her, the council erupted into debate that would last for days, but already knew what the decision would be. She had seen the way some representatives had looked at the images of humans bonding with other species. She had noticed the longing in the eyes of delegates from isolated worlds, the curiosity from those who had never experienced true pack connection. Humanity would not be destroyed, they would be welcomed. And the galaxy would never be the same. The first contact vessel dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, exactly where the Galactic Council had planned. Dr. Crystal stood on the observation deck, watching the distant star that humans called the sun grow brighter as they approached. It had been 2 standard years since her presentation to the Council. 2 years of debate, planning, and preparation. 2 years of studying every aspect of human culture to ensure the first meeting would go smoothly. She was not alone on this mission. The vessel carried representatives from 37 species, carefully selected for their diplomatic experience and their willingness to engage with a new civilization. The Zealoth had sent an ambassador despite their purely energy-based nature. Even the Korathi had contributed observers, though High Commander Vrex had made clear this was only to assess any potential threat. "We are detecting human communication signals," reported the vessel's navigator, a Threxian whose tentacles moved constantly across control surfaces. "Radio waves, primitive but functional." "As expected," Crystal replied. "Maintain our current approach vector. We want them to see us coming." This was deliberate. The council had decided against surprising humanity. Better to let them observe the approaching vessel, analyze it, and prepare for contact on their own terms. Humans, Crystal had explained, responded poorly to surprises that appeared threatening. Days passed as they traveled deeper into the system. Human observation platforms detected them quickly, and soon the radio waves were full of excited chatter. Listened to translations, fascinated by the range of human reactions: fear, excitement, wonder, debate about whether to welcome or attack the visitors. The pack bonding instinct was already visible. Many humans were arguing that the aliens should be given a chance to prove themselves friendly. Others were organizing welcoming committees. Some had begun creating art and music to share with the visitors. "They are preparing gifts," Threx reported from his monitoring station. He had insisted on joining the mission, unable to resist seeing his research subject up close. Many humans are recording messages of greeting. They are selecting cultural artifacts to share. They are arguing about which human should speak for their species. Felt a warm sensation spreading through her scales. This was exactly what she had predicted. Faced with the unknown, many humans were defaulting to their pack bonding instinct. They wanted to welcome the aliens. They wanted to make friends. Of course, not all humans felt this way. Military forces around the planet were on high alert. Weapons systems tracked the approaching vessel. Defensive plans were being prepared in case the visitors proved hostile. This too was expected. Humans protected what they loved. The vessel entered orbit around Earth, positioning itself where it could be easily seen and studied. Authorized the broadcast of a simple mathematical signal, demonstrating intelligence and peaceful intent. Humans responded within hours with their own mathematical message, and the first crude communication began. Learning each other's languages took time, but humans proved remarkably quick. Their linguists worked in shifts, never sleeping, driven by an enthusiasm that amazed the alien delegates. Within weeks, basic communication was possible. Within months, complex conversations were happening daily. Crystal was assigned as the primary liaison, given her extensive knowledge of human behavior. She found herself speaking with human scientists, politicians, and cultural leaders for hours each day. Each conversation taught her something new about this remarkable species. "Dr. Crystal," said a human scientist named Dr. Sarah Chen during one such conversation, "I have a question that may seem strange." "Please ask. Understanding each other requires honest questions." Dr. Chen hesitated, her face displaying the mix of emotions that humans found so difficult to hide. "When you first came here, when your vessel appeared in our sky, we had no idea if you were friendly or hostile. We had no way to defend ourselves if you had decided to attack. Why did you come in peace? What do you gain from being our friends?" Considered the question carefully. She had given many diplomatic answers over the past months, carefully phrased explanations about mutual benefit and galactic cooperation. But Dr. Chen deserved something more honest. "May I ask you a question first?" Dr. Chen nodded. "Your species keeps animals in your homes, dogs, cats, birds, and others. These creatures cannot help you in any meaningful way. They cannot work for you or protect you or provide resources. They require food and care that costs you time and energy. Why do you keep them?" Dr. Chen smiled, the human expression that indicated happiness or amusement. "Because we love them. Because having them makes us happy. Because life feels less lonely when you have a companion to share it with. Even though you gain nothing practical. Some things are more important than practical gains." Felt her scales shift to warm colors. "This is why we came in peace, Dr. Chen. For the same reason you keep your pets. For the same reason you form friendships with those who cannot benefit you. For the same reason you adopted children who share none of your genes and love them as your own." She paused, gathering her thoughts. I have studied your species for many years. I have watched you care for strangers, protect the weak, form bonds with machines and animals and fictional characters. I have seen you fight and die for things you love. I have seen you rebuild after disasters that would have destroyed other species. You studied us before you came. Yes, we needed to understand you before making contact. And what I understood, what I reported to our council, was that humanity possesses something rare and valuable. Something most species in the galaxy have lost or never had. The ability to love beyond reason, to bond beyond logic, to care for things simply because caring makes you feel complete. Dr. Chen was quiet, her eyes glistening with the moisture humans produce during strong emotions. We came in peace, Crystal continued, because we want to be part of your pack, not for resources or military alliance or strategic advantage. We came because we have watched you love each other, love your pets, love your children and friends and companions, and we wanted to be loved too. You want us to love you. I want the galaxy to experience what you have. That warmth when you greet a friend. That comfort when you are not alone. That strength when you know someone will fight beside you, not because they must, but because they choose to. She stepped closer to the human scientist, close enough that they could touch if they wished. Most species in the galaxy are alone, Dr. Chen. They cooperate when necessary and compete when possible and feel nothing deeper than temporary convenience. They have no pack, no tribe, no family beyond genetic obligation. They look at your species and cannot understand why you waste resources on emotional bonds. But you understand. Crystal's scales shifted through a rainbow of colors. I understand that you are not wasting anything. I understand that your bonds are the reason you survived. I understand that your love is your greatest strength. And I understand that if you extend that love to us, we will be stronger together than either of us could be apart. The human was definitely crying now, moisture streaming down her face. But she was also smiling, that remarkable human expression that could convey 1,000 emotions at once. You want to be part of our family, Dr. Chen said softly. Yes. Then you already are. She reached out and took Crystal's clawed hand in her own, that simple gesture of physical contact that meant so much to humans. Felt something shift inside her, something warm and unfamiliar. Was this what pack bonding felt like? This sense of connection, this feeling that she was no longer alone. Thank you, she whispered. No, Dr. Chen replied, squeezing her hand gently. Thank you for coming all this way, for taking the chance, for wanting to be our friends. Word of this conversation spread quickly, as word did among humans. The story of the alien scientist who wanted to be loved touched something deep in human hearts. Messages poured in from around the planet. Millions of humans offering friendship, welcoming the visitors, extending their pack bonding instinct to include beings from other stars. It was not universal, of course. Some humans remained suspicious. Some feared the aliens' true intentions. Some saw only threat and danger in these strange visitors. But they were the minority. Most humans opened their arms to the galaxy. Over the following years, relationships deepened. Human and alien scientists worked together, combining knowledge and perspectives to make discoveries neither could have achieved alone. Human artists collaborated with alien creators, producing works of beauty that moved beings across dozens of worlds. Human families adopted alien exchange visitors, treating them as honored guests and sometimes as true family members. The pack bonding instinct proved even more powerful than Crystal had predicted. Humans did not simply accept the aliens as allies. They integrated them into their social structures. They invited them to family gatherings. They named children after alien friends. They cried when alien companions faced hardship and celebrated when they found joy. And the aliens began to change in response. Species that had never formed emotional bonds began to experience them. The cool logic of Zelith thought patterns warmed with something approaching affection. Even Korathi warriors, raised to value only strength and victory, found themselves protecting human companions with a ferocity that surprised them. Crystal watched it all with wonder and satisfaction. She had been right. Humanity's pack bonding was their evolutionary advantage, but it was also their gift to the galaxy. A reminder that connection mattered, that love was not weakness, that belonging to something larger than oneself was worth more than any resource or territory. The galaxy had found humanity, and in finding them had found something it never knew it was missing. 10 years after first contact, Dr. Crystal stood on a stage on Earth, surrounded by beings from 47 different species. Millions of humans watched the broadcast around the planet. Billions more aliens observed from worlds across the galaxy. She was old now by Veloran standards. Her scales had faded to silver, and she moved more slowly than she once had. But her eyes were bright, and her voice was strong as she addressed the assembly. "When I first studied humanity," she began, "I asked a simple question. How did they survive? They had no claws or fangs, no armor or venom, no special speed or strength. By every measure we use to predict survival, they should have died out long ago." The audience was silent, listening intently. I found my answer in their capacity for love, their ability to bond with anything and anyone, their willingness to sacrifice for those they cared about, regardless of genetic relationship or practical benefit. She looked out at the mixed crowd, humans and aliens sitting together, some holding hands or tentacles or energy tendrils. I believed that this pack bonding was humanity's evolutionary advantage. I was right about that, but I was wrong about something else. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I thought we were coming to study humans, to understand them, perhaps to use their unique abilities for our own benefit. I did not understand that we were really coming to be changed by them. Images appeared on screens throughout the venue, aliens and humans together, working, playing, living, loving. Look at what has happened in just 10 years. Species that had never trusted each other now cooperate daily. Civilizations that saw only competitors now see partners. Beings who were alone now have friends, families, pack. She smiled, an expression she had learned from her human companions. Humans did not just survive because of their pack bonding. They thrived. They built civilizations and created art and explored the universe, and now they are sharing that gift with all of us. Dr. Sarah Chen, older now but still bright-eyed, stepped onto the stage to stand beside her. They had become close friends over the years, their relationship a symbol of what was possible between species. "When we first met," Dr. Chen said, "you told me you wanted to be part of our pack. You wanted to be loved." "I remember." "How does it feel, being part of the pack?" Thought about the question. She thought about the human friends she had made, the alien colleagues who had become like family, the sense of belonging that had grown stronger every year. "It feels like coming home," she said softly. "It feels like finally being complete." The audience erupted in applause and other expressions of approval across dozens of species. Crystal stood in the center of it all, surrounded by beings who cared about her, who would fight for her, who had welcomed her into their hearts. She was no longer just an observer studying a remarkable species. She was part of the pack now. And she had never been happier. In the years that followed, the Galactic Council changed beyond recognition. What had once been a loose alliance of competing species became something more, something warmer, something almost like a family. Humans spread through the galaxy, bringing their pack bonding instinct with them. Everywhere they went, they made friends. They formed connections. They transformed cold diplomatic relationships into genuine bonds of affection and loyalty. Not everyone welcomed this change. Some species resisted the pull of human emotion. Some saw the spreading influence of pack bonding as a threat to their independence. Some tried to maintain the old ways of calculated self-interest and practical alliance. But they were fighting against something more powerful than logic. They were fighting against the simple human belief that everyone deserved to be loved, that no one should be alone, that the galaxy was big enough for everyone to find a place where they belonged. Crystal lived long enough to see the beginning of a new era, an era where species worked together not because they had to, but because they wanted to, where differences were celebrated rather than feared, where the question was not what can I gain but what can I share. She died surrounded by friends from a dozen worlds, her human colleagues holding one hand while alien companions held the others. She was mourned across the galaxy, remembered as the scientist who had first understood what humanity could offer. But she would have said that her greatest achievement was not understanding humans. It was being understood by them, being accepted, being loved. In the end, that was humanity's true evolutionary advantage. Not just the ability to bond, but the willingness to share that ability, to teach other species how to love, to expand their pack until it included everyone who wanted to belong. The galaxy had been vast and cold and lonely, but humanity had arrived with warmth and connection, and the radical belief that things did not have to be that way. And slowly, one bond at a time, they were making it better. The stars still burned in the void. The distances between worlds remained immense. The challenges facing galactic civilization were still enormous. But now those challenges were faced together, by a pack that spanned the stars, by a family that grew larger every day, by beings who had learned from humanity that love was not weakness. Love was strength. Love was survival. Love was the evolutionary advantage that would carry them all into a future brighter than any they could have imagined alone. And it had all started with a simple observation by a Veloran scientist, watching humans from orbit, trying to understand how such a fragile species had survived. The answer was love. It had always been love. And now that love belonged to everyone.